Delighted to have Yosef from NASJET, also Capt.Mohammed from NASJET, and I'll hand over to you to take us through managing and operating aircraft in Senegal.
I'm glad to be here for the second time. It was a quick year since last year we've been here. I will start with a short statement, then my colleague Yosef will present a short presentation. It's reflecting NASJET point of view. NASJET did a great job actually last year. It was the best year ever since we established business. I think there is a couple of reasons behind that. We merged some services with our sister company, Flynas. So the maintenance and the operation now became one department. And also we decided to remove 5 Hawker aircraft. It was not needed because the market in Saudi Arabia was not enough demand. So we decided and we sold the whole aircraft. Yesterday was the last one, departed Dubai to Oxford, UK. Maybe this is the most important thing. We are very optimistic about our business next year. You will see it in the presentation, and we are ready for any question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Capt.Mohammed, for the wonderful introduction. It's good to be back again this year. We did attend last year. That was our first opportunity to attend a CJI conference, and I'd like to thank Corporate Jet Investor for doing such a wonderful job, for gathering us all together and bringing us as operators and management companies, OEMs, vendors, handlers, and so on all together. So it's a wonderful event, and I hope it will continue in the future. I think the topic of the day, in my opinion, is focused on Saudi Arabia. What are we doing in Saudi Arabia? What's happening? What's going on? You know, I tried to Google it yesterday when I was preparing this presentation. I couldn't find anything. So I know that people are hungry for information to know what's happening in Saudi Arabia. So we put a few short slides together which give us an idea of what's going on in Saudi Arabia. So I'll start. This is the table of contents here. I'll give you a short introduction of aircraft management in Saudi Arabia, what NASJET is doing in particular, and maybe what other Saudi operators. I did see a few of our colleagues from as Saudi operators that are here as well, which is a good sign. Private business jet aircraft in Saudi Arabia, the outlook of aircraft management and operation in Saudi Arabia, expectations of the Saudi ultra high net worth individual aircraft owners. So that's an important topic to discuss. The change of the Aviation Authority rules and regulations. We talked about this last year, and it was supposed to come into effect January 1st, so we'll see what's changed since then. Operating under 2 different sets of regulations for private business jets. It's going to be either GACA Part 125 operator certificate for private business jets, or a Part 121, which is for commercial operations. We'll talk about that in detail. The gray market charter cabotage flights. We'll talk about what's happened since 2018 and 19. Restrictions on foreign investors and how that's changed in Saudi Arabia. We'll talk about government spending and investment on infrastructures in Saudi Arabia, and the future potential of helicopter management. This is something big coming up. I know it may not be particular for this event since we're focused on business jets, but helicopters do look like it does have a good future in Saudi Arabia. And then the future of aircraft management in Saudi Arabia. How does it look? How is it going to change? Okay, if we talk about just a quick introduction here, you know, this is, again, my analysis, or our analysis of the situation and how we see aircraft management in Saudi Arabia. It began over 30 years ago, and I think we've seen some of the companies they started up, maybe they were few back then, maybe 1 or 2. Now they've pretty much exceeded 10, and they're continuing to grow. So you do see a lot of potential growth for aircraft management companies and operators in Saudi Arabia. If you go to the GACA website, I had somebody ask me that the other day of how many AOC holders do we have in Saudi Arabia that have commercial AOCs. There are 6 commercial air or operator certificate holders who have 121 special and scheduled, which is known as 135 in Saudi Arabia. Aircraft management competition has risen, as we've seen, and it's going to continue to rise in Saudi Arabia. The competition has led as well to aircraft owners to seek operators who can provide them a better level of service. So that's helped us internally, NASJET and other companies, of enhancing our level of service that we provide our managed aircraft. This is a article that was written by Corporate Jet Investor last year, which showed some statistics on aircraft fleets in Saudi Arabia, the different types, and it was a very good article, and I hope they do write something similar to that again, because there's going to be a few updates. Now, we can see the blue line here represents the fleet size, if you will, and the black line is the age of the aircraft. I'm more focused on the fleet size, if you will. We had a peak in 2015 of aircraft in the region, and then it sort of dipped down in 16 and 17, and we probably expect it to dip down even further in 18 and also 19. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's a lot of changes that are happening in the market. As Capt.Mohammed mentioned, we've sold a bunch of our hoppers, but that's proven to us to be very beneficial to us as a company. So even though we may have reduced our fleet size in NASJET, we're actually making money now. We're making a profit, which is where companies need to go to sustain themselves. If we look at the outlook of aircraft management and operators in Saudi Arabia, aircraft management is the future focus of private business jets. We believe that's where companies need to invest their effort in, especially management companies. There are good margins for us in aircraft management. That's our core business. We do supplement that with charter, so a lot of our aircraft that we operate in NASJET are on a commercial air operator certificate, so there's a high demand, especially from the government sector, for charter flights. So that helps our aircraft owners actually offset some of their costs. Increased government spending has led to positive outcome. We see a lot of initiative from the Saudi government in improving a lot of the services and improving Saudi Arabia overall. There's some mega projects, which we'll talk about, as well, that have really led them to utilize private business jets on a much higher scale. The future mega projects and the Saudi vision for 2030 as well is a big initiative of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. You know, that I think you're going to see a lot of transformations in Saudi Arabia. You're going to see a lot of change. We're feeling it. You know, I still call myself part of the younger generation. Hopefully I am. And we're feeling a big push from the Saudi government. There's a lot of change in the region. You know, there's a lot of new projects coming up. So I think we're going to see a big push with private businesses. We see a lot of the ministers as well, a lot of government officials wanting private business jets. And they're using aircraft which maybe they haven't used before, you know, and it's very interesting to us to see that dynamic. Aircraft management in Saudi Arabia has become regulated by the local aviation authorities. Now, what does that mean? And we'll talk about that on some slides to come. Is there's new regulations in Saudi Arabia now which actually regulate the market much more strictly. Expectations of the Saudi ultra-high net worth individuals. The ultra-high net worth individuals expect the highest level of service from aircraft management companies in Saudi Arabia. They know they have choices. They know they don't only have NASJET, they have 10 other management companies they can choose from. So it's up on us as a management company to make sure we give them the best that they can receive. The mindset has changed as well, and the way they used to operate in the past, and nowadays they look at reducing costs. So how do we do that for them? We actually have their aircraft onto our AOC, where in the past maybe they didn't allow us to do that, but now they are. So we're actually able to offer their aircraft for commercial charter operations legally, and that helps them offset their costs. Aircraft management companies within Saudi Arabia have to be dynamic and flexible. So we talked about in the previous presentation, we talked about China, how there are companies that are very traditional or Asia, if you will, and there are companies that offer some type of solutions. And I think really it's the companies that offer flexibility and dynamics, they're the ones that are going to succeed, and we see the same in Saudi Arabia. Operators are seeing more aircraft being added under air operator certificates and AOCs like we are. This is an interesting topic that we talked about last year, is the new GACA rules and regulations, and people were skeptical about them. They were like wondering, how is GACA going to regulate other aircraft that are not registered in Saudi Arabia? And one of the topics that we discussed on a panel up here, Capt.Mohammed, myself, and Oliver, was the new GACA rules and regulations. They have come into full effect. They are effective as of the 1st of January 2019, and they are requiring all aircraft owners, regardless of where they're registered. They could be registered with the Cayman Islands, they could be registered Hotel Zulu and registered. They have to be on a private OC, operator certificate, under 125, or a commercial AOC under 121 special unscheduled. The 121 special unscheduled is the replacement for 135. GACA has taken a strong stance against aircraft owners and operators. Now, there's a big pushback from some of the aircraft owners, but eventually they're all going to have to comply. They're all going to have to find an AOC holder or an OC holder who can maintain their aircraft for them. We did talk about this a little bit on the previous slide, that there's only two choices, if you will. It's either a private configuration under 125 or a 121 special unscheduled. And those are the only two choices that owners have. Gray market charter is, I want to say, it's pretty much almost eliminated in Saudi Arabia. It's almost nil. We're seeing less and less of gray market charter, which was a big issue for management companies and operators in Saudi Arabia. Cabotage has been eliminated completely. And I'm sorry for the UAE operators, they used to be able to come in to Saudi Arabia and fly Riyadh, Jeddah. That no longer exists. And they know that, we know that. So anybody who wants to fly a domestic flight has to be with a Saudi company who has an AOC or an OC in Saudi Arabia. If we look at restrictions on foreign investors have been removed in Saudi Arabia, this is a true sign. If you look at the Vision 2030, they are opening up the doors for foreign companies to come in and invest. There are websites out there that can assist, government websites like CJI and so on, that can assist with companies setting up their own entities. They do not require a Saudi partner anymore. So that's changed as well. And they're trying to give a boost to outside investors to come into Saudi Arabia and invest and open up their companies. If you look at government spending, we touched base upon this. You see some mega projects that are coming up, like the Red Sea project in the Red Sea, which is basically off the coast of Jeddah and Yanbar. They're building small islands like the Maldives, so there's going to be a big requirement for aircraft flying in and out of that area, just like the Maldives. Probably seaplanes, maybe smaller aircraft, who knows. Neom City, as you probably are aware of, that's another big mega project that's being built up in the northwest corner of Saudi Arabia. And the largest entertainment park in the world will be in Riyadh, south of Riyadh. So, you know, there are huge mega projects in Saudi Arabia that are coming up, which are pushing the aviation industry and pushing us as aircraft management companies to provide more lift, to provide more aircraft to them. All of this enhances the aviation market, as we said, and provides great opportunities for us as operators and management companies. If we look at the future potential, we talked about helicopters in the introduction, and we're seeing, we've done some statistics and actually had some outside companies, consultants come in and look at helicopters, which is quite interesting. I know we had somebody from Falcon Aviation who operates helicopters, I believe, out of Abu Dhabi. And there is a big push for helicopters in the region. And today you'll see that primarily they're government helicopters that are either run by Aramco or by the Saudi Red Crescent or so on. But there are no helicopters offered for private transport today. And I think we're going to see a big push and a big change over the next 5 years with helicopters coming into the region. The future is in aircraft management in Saudi Arabia for aircraft management companies. I think it's not about owning the asset. We've learned that over the past 20 years. I mean, we started out as NASJET Middle East, as most of you are aware. We became NASJET in 2011. And we used to do fractional ownership. We used to do ad hoc charter. We used to own the assets. That doesn't work. We've learned over the past years, and the changes that we've made have really shown positive results for us as a company. So, and I think that's really the future, is we're going to consolidate all the efforts we have to manage aircraft in Saudi Arabia. The new requirements of GACA that are requiring owners to be on board with the management company is also a big push for us. So we're seeing more and more people approach us nowadays and actually ask to add their aircraft onto our private certificate because they don't have that, so, or our commercial certificate. So management companies and operators within Saudi Arabia will expand in number in the near future. That is our vision. So I think that's pretty much the last slide there. So we're open to any questions as well.
Thank you. And the fact that you've got questions in the session for lunch is amazing. It's or a sign of how important your presentation was. Question, actually getting loads coming through. Apart from NASJET, who are the other three holders of operators certificates?
The other three, this is working, okay, are Private Air Saudi Arabia. You have SPA, you have Horizon Aviation, I know they're here as well. You have Sky Prime as well, and Alpha Star have a 125. So there are quite a few out there, and we believe there are going to expand.
Here's a nice easy one. How soon will the fleet start growing again? Will it reduce further? Have we reached the bottom? Or is it getting before recovering? Or can it still fall, the Saudi Arabian fleet?
I think it's growing, and the indication is very obvious. Last year we sold more than 3,500 hours in our fleet, and all aircraft, JBJ, the Airbus, the Delta Stream, yeah, and the demand is high next year.
Actually, I think the question is about the total Saudi fleet. Do you see that growing this year?
The number of aircraft, as you've seen from your statistics, have dropped. I think in 2019, they'll probably continue to drop, but there is going to be a plateau. Eventually, we're going to see 2020 new ultra-high net worth individuals come forward, and it will start growing with all these visions, as we said. So it will continue to grow. Probably not this year, but maybe in 2020.
What about investments in hangars and infrastructure? Investments in hangars and infrastructure, are you seeing demand for that?
I think yes, and they start, we, as Salam company, is part of, works with, mainly with the MOD, Ministry of Defense, but they start building, I think 3 or 4 hangars in Riyadh. They will do the same in Jeddah, I think, so I think yes.
Okay. And movements, traffic. Someone's asking how movements and traffic performed year on year. Can we put a slide on as well? I was going to put a slide on.
You mean the movement for our fleet or overall?
I think overall it's on probably all the same.
I think there is if you see for our number and one company, it's getting, there is a lot of movement here. The movement is due to this mega project, which Yosef just mentioned. A lot of executive movement from outside the country, in and out, and we've been asked for helicopters, for more aircraft to support them in NEOM and the Red Sea. A lot of movement there.
I think the Red Sea project is amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Definitely with the volcanoes and the turtles. Do you think there should be more commercial AOCs issued, or should the existing AOC holders get a chance to grow their fleet?
I think the GACA, which Yosef just mentioned, it's pushing the owners now either to go with to work under an AOC company or create an AOC for himself. One company, just the higher aviation, maybe, they just received their AOC. They don't want, they have only one aircraft. So I'm expecting more AOC in the next year.
Here's another great question. Given that you're expecting a lot of demand to come from the mega projects, and you've talked about helicopters, do you see the fleet changing to smaller aircraft for the domestic flights?
I think the focus, well, we've just sold our Hawkers. There was no demand on the Hawker aircraft, so those types of aircraft are not in high demand. We do have one small aircraft that we operate, which is the Citation XL, but again, it does not fly as much. I think the focus is really on the Gulfstreams, on the Legacies, on the Globals, if you will. Though that's the future focus of private aviation in Saudi Arabia. We do operate larger aircraft as well, but people are looking to economize. They're not looking to spend too much money. Those larger airplanes tend to be more expensive.
Okay, fine. Any questions from the audience? Final question. They were quite controversial, the new rules on operations in Saudi Arabia. As Saudi operators, you clearly like them. Many of the people in the room dislike them. Have they been a success from your perspective?
I think so. I think GACA can do, first of all, GACA can do more. They're not doing enough. They did not issue a letter extending the new GACA rules and regulations like they did last year. They did, when the deadline came, March 31st, they extended the deadline to the end of the year, which was December 31st. They did not do it this time. So they have put their foot down. They're trying to regulate the market. And I believe that's really the key thing, is we had a lot of gray market operators. We had a lot of savvy owners who were just managing the aircraft on their own with the pilot, that's it, and they weren't doing a good job. And it's about safety. And I think that's what GACA has realized, is they need to put them under an umbrella of an AOC or an OC holder. So.
We've got, sorry.
No, yeah. Thanks for the usual good presentation, Yosef. Two questions, or one question, one comment. The first question is, we know how Vista is very active in Saudi Arabia, and we always hear there's always so many of them parked over there. How much percentage of the charter market do you believe they're taking, or they're capturing from the market in Saudi?
So how much market share do you think VistaJet?
I think VistaJet, we do work with them, by the way. So they're not our enemies. They are a partner with us. We do take with them ad hoc charter flights. They do supplement our lift because we don't have enough aircraft to perform all the charter flights we require. VistaJet's only in and out. They're not domestic. So there's a high demand we see from government agencies for domestic flights. Vista cannot do that. We can do that. So Vista, what they do is some of their aircraft may be, let's say, newer, they have internet on board, they have the latest technology on board. That's a big eye catcher for our clients. They must have Ka-band, high-speed internet. They must have a brand new airplane. They must have this. Not all our aircraft have internet. Not all our aircraft are maybe as new as VistaJet's aircraft, but they do supplement some of our movements. So I don't feel them as a threat. I don't feel them as a threat. They're helping us out because the demand is high. And to answer your question, maybe it's 10%, I would say, or 5%, something like that. Not very much. You know, I mean, they are in and out. You do see them, but maybe 10 or 5%. That's all.
The second question or comment is the challenge I'm seeing with the clients in Saudi is, I think we're in a very deep transition stage. And what I'm seeing is that the clients whom we've known are probably not going to be there anymore, or their associates. So there's a shift of basically funding or fund the way things used to work. It's not the same people anymore. And those who've been in business for 20, 30, 40 years are not going to be there anymore. So then you guys are being very still shy to come in and probably show up and look to ask and buy. So how long do you think the clients will be shy from probably taking to buy and probably stick to charter?
They're not being that shy, they're on stage.
I think no, it's the customer are changing, you know, and the situation now, you know, the decision happened, and we are not focusing in one only customer. Okay, the customer yesterday he went, then a new customer will come. But the main thing is the activity taking place. Those activity taking place now make us very optimistic in the future, regardless of the nature of the clients.
And I think to add to that, I mean, at least Wasim, our clientele, and I think you're referring to what happened in 2017, without mentioning too much detail. None of our clients had any issues, so really our business was not affected. Maybe other clients, the management companies got shut down because they were only managing one person's assets, 4 or 5 of them. So from our end, everything is business as usual. We're seeing those businessmen expand and grow. You know, yes, the market has slowed down a little bit, and I understand your sympathy, but it will come back. Nothing lasts forever. It's not always going to be a downturn forever. It will come back, and I think Saudi Arabia is the place to be. I always tell people to continue to come to Saudi Arabia, continue to do business there, because it is the place to be. It's going to be the next big boom.
So we're going to end on that positive, but nothing lasts forever message. Thank you. Love the share.